88D Wired Gaming.
Hello, everybody. Odd angle, I know. Welcome to Draw My Life. I'm going to try to angle this as best as I can, but I will probably be doing this a lot, so this way you can see. But, yeah, so I'm basically going to tell my life story through this. I'm not going to play any kind of melancholy music or anything like that. I'm just basically going to tell you my story growing up and the things I've encountered throughout life. And it's not going to be like extremely detailed, but there are going to be certain things I think will be necessary to involve. So let's start off with the basics. I was a baby boy. Let's see, how do I draw this? I can't forgive the atrocious drawing and doodling you will be experiencing throughout this. But basically, I was a little boy. Imagine that, the little turban, little head, little squiggly baby head, and then crying, sad face, baby Jake. So I was basically a baby boy born into the world, and I make light of it all the time, but I actually have no clue who my legitimate parents are. So I was born into the world without any knowledge of who my actual parents were. And pretty much I was born into an orphanage. So, with that being said, basically, I grew up, I don't know how you want to imagine this, but basically, imagine an orphanage, if you will. Windows, all that fun jazz. But it's got broken cracks throughout the entire place, because as far as I'm aware, this orphanage was not a great orphanage. It was probably one of the actually more poorly run orphanages in Russia. So I did not add that detail. I was born in Samara, Russia. I'm not going to try to draw the country because it's just going to look like a bunch of scribble scrabble, but I was born in a hospital in Samara, Russia, and brought basically directly into an orphanage. So, this orphanage was not the best orphanage. As far as I'm aware, and as far as based on what my parents have told me growing up, this was an orphanage where you had to soldier off any injuries. So, you had to be again, some of these doodles will be a stick figure, all that kind of stuff, but imagine if that's a rifle, you got your little military hat on, there you go. Boink. So, you have to basically be a little soldier throughout this entire orphanage growing up. If you got hurt, if you got sick, you had to tough it out because the medicine was so bad, and because the nurses did not care enough to cradle you, give you the attention you needed, all that kind of stuff. But in that sense, I developed a monstrous, how do you want to do this? A monstrous pain tolerance. So, because of this, I could get hurt throughout life. As weird as this sounds, I would get injuries, and these injuries I suffered would basically completely unfaze me. And in the same process of getting the severe monstrous pain tolerance, I also got, how do you do like the spider sense drawing? Basically, my ears suffered countless ear infections. Like, how many, I cannot count, but I have severe and significant scarring throughout my ear canals from ear infections, and in the process of that, hearing, let's see if I can draw it right, because I don't know how to draw, but basically imagine a speaker, if you will. Instead of blaring, it is now just quiet little squiggles. My hearing has suffered substantially, so that's why I seem so excruciatingly loud throughout life. It's because these ear infections have dulled my hearing to a point where I need hearing aids, and I actually have them. I don't know if they're in this drawer right here. They're probably over there, but I have these hearing aids that are substantially expensive, $3,000 each, and they work so well that I can hear the wind, and it drives me insane. So that's basically the gist of what I also suffered from, whoopsie. What do you, this is going to be funny, but imagine, if you will, a fishy, right? a little salmon, if you will, and then you draw the scales. Draw the scale throughout. A little thin. So I suffered from salmonella poisoning. So not only did I have countless ear infections, I suffered from salmonella poisoning in the orphanage as well, and it actually nearly killed me. So I am actually extremely lucky that my parents adopted me when they did, because I had gotten over the salmonella poisoning, I had suffered through the ear infections, and I got to experience my first chocolate ice cream. Forgive me, I'm writing sideways, but whoops, that's an upside down A. Boink. Chocolate. Trying to chocolate. If I'm spelling that A backward, forgive me. But first chocolate ice cream ever. It looked like I had crap smeared all over my face, but I was in a stroller. We were walking throughout Samara, Russia, and I got to have my very first chocolate ice cream ever. Now we take the plane ride, if you will. How do I draw a plane at this angle? But basically a plane ride with a lot of windows, you know, the typical plane, all that stuff. Turbines. You know, little turbines and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, we got to fly all the way home from Russia to America, where I had basically been immediately sworn into as an American citizen. And I do have photos. I will probably try to find them if you want to see them, of me being sworn in with my dad as a baby. Now, here comes the interesting part. I was actually raised in New York. So, I'm not going to try to draw the state of New York, but know that I was raised there in New York. I'm writing all this sideways, by the way, so if you're impressed, thank you. I was raised in New York for the first 7 years of my life. So the interesting part about this is, as I grew up in New York, we had discovered that I had severe balance problems. We also discovered I had significant eyesight loss. So not only did I become a significant hearing loss, I also suffered from severe eyesight loss because of, and we don't know when this developed actually. It only became a curiosity because growing up in New York, I would always have to sit extremely close to the TV. So basically, imagine if you will, the TV is York, and most people could sit this far away from the TV. I had to be right here to basically be able to see what the TV was displaying. So that caused my parents to become curious and say we should have him checked out. I had a significant eyesight loss. So I got the double whammy. I am basically at this point half of Helen Keller. I have a significant hearing loss, significant eyesight loss. I've suffered from salmonella poisoning, and because of these sensory issues, I have severe balance problems. So, growing up, I couldn't stand on my own. My legs just did not want to work. I just could not walk for the life of me for the first 4 years of my life. I could hold my parents' hands. They would be strong enough to support me. All that kind of stuff. I'm trying to draw hair, you know, all that fun jazz. But basically, I couldn't stand on my own without the help of my parents. If they had let go of me while I was walking, I would basically immediately go from standing to crisscross applesauce. I would basically melt to the floor sitting. And the only way we were able to counteract this was through therapy. So we had to have a physical therapist. There we go. Why? There we go. So we had to have a physical therapist basically teach me how to walk. I could not walk up and down stairs properly at all. When it comes to stairs, ooh gosh. When it came to stairs and my little squiggly legs, well, God, that is the wrong kind of body, buddy. When it came to me and my squiggly legs, I would immediately tumble. I would go down the stairs fast. Surprise! Oh no! So I couldn't walk downstairs well. I would always go left foot, then right foot, left foot, then right foot, each individual step. And because of that, I would trip over myself and I would tumble. I would take the flight down and it would not be fun. And this had happened more times than I can count. And miraculously, I do not have a broken neck. I have not died from the fall down the stairs, because everybody knows you take a trip down the stairs, it is deadly. So, I remember the therapist in my old house would have this weird cylindrical, if you will. It was like a weird cylinder that, you know, like how yoga balls are? It was made of the same stuff, but it was like a cylinder. And he would lean it into the corner of the room. So basically, imagine this is a corner of the room. He would lean it against that, and he would tell me I would essentially basically have to figure out, using my balance, climbing up it. And once I reached the top, I had graduated that. I also had to use the cylinder with the board on the top. So my squiggly legs had to use this also to learn muscle engagement. So I had to balance on the cylinder, on the, I like to call it the dough roller. I had to do this. I also took ballet. For a lot of you who might be surprised, I had to take ballet because what ballet did for me was it taught me how to I'm trying to think of the right way to word it, but basically it taught me the rhythm of the body and how to let things flow in a natural sense. And with these things, I finally learned how to manage to walk on my own. I had to take ballet, I had to take advanced physical therapy for balance, all that kind of stuff. And finally, by the time I was 4 years old, I was able to walk on my own. I also, growing up, because of my severe hearing loss, developed a speech impediment. Instead of THs and S sounds, I would say D, and I couldn't even say I can't even remember how the S sound was, but I couldn't say snake or things that started with S. I would replace TH sound with the D. So instead of that over there, it would be that over there. So I couldn't. Am I doing that right? Oh, nope. I got the line on the wrong side. Again, like I said, forgive me. I'm writing this sideways, so I can't tell what side the line goes on when I'm writing the A. Anyway, I could not pronounce TH sounds or S sounds, so TH was replaced with the D, and the S I just can't remember. But I do know I had to take advanced speech therapy all throughout elementary school. So, growing up in New York, I actually don't remember too much of, sadly. When we moved, I remember at the age of 7, in the year 2000, Y2K, right? Pretty much not too long after September 11th, we moved to Texas. And we have been living here since then. We have not moved. Well, we have moved, but we have not left the state. So, in Bucklew, in my elementary school, I can't say how much I remember. I remember I enjoyed it. It was good. I participated in many plays, where there's the rows of the student. I'm not going to draw 1,000 kids, but basically, you had the typical stage set up. You had the curtains. You had the curtains above, and then you had all the little kids and everything on the rows doing their horribly choreographed, coordinated singing on their steps and everything. And it basically got kids involved in theater, basically. It was fun. I didn't mind it too much, but I was also horrible. I thought I was great, but if you watch the VHS tapes, whew, it was bad. So this is really where my memory starts actually kind of kicking in. After my elementary school, once I finally got into intermediate school, wow, that is the most sideways 5 you'll ever see. Once I got into 5th grade, you start getting your big boy pants, intermediate school. I got into 5th grade. I still didn't know how to socialize. I didn't know how to fit in. Growing up was very confusing for me. I was blissfully ignorant. I was just a kid. I was finally a small boy, happy, playing at little mobile games. The Game Boy Colors. You had your little directional pad and then your two buttons. The Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy Advance SP. So if for those of you who don't remember, Game Boy Advance was like this weird little shaped game system that was like this, almost kind of like an hourglass, if you will. Had the directional pads here, the two buttons here, and then the screen pretty much in the middle. So I had Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and then there was the foldable one, which is the Game Boy Advance SP, which pretty much, if I can make this look right, looked like, you know, it had the foldable screen basically. It looked like the Game Boy Color but folded over in half, and this was the SP. Oh my goodness, if I could type right or anything like that. So I was huge growing up on portable gaming. It was one of the things that I think that helped distract me a lot from the cruelty of the world, I want to say. So I was lost in my own little world where these games and myself are really all that mattered. I had people I interacted with. There were students and everything that I would interact with and all that kind of stuff. I would show off a little bit about my pain tolerance. I remember in 5th grade, there was this one student, this guy named Jared. His name was, I'm not going to say his last name, but if he's watching this, he knows who he is. In the middle of the school year, it was like we snuck out during the middle of class. We all said we had to go to the bathroom. I met him in the hall, and he's like, I was telling him about my pain tolerance, and he's like, dude, there's no way you have serious pain tolerance. I'm like, oh yeah? Well, punch me in the stomach as hard as you can. And he slugged me in the stomach. And it was almost like Majin Buu from Dragon Ball Z. You know, you punch him hard enough, and the basically his blubbery body just expanded backward while his body stayed in place. That was basically me. He punched right through me. My body did not move, but my stomach went through my back, and I was like, ha! You could hit harder than that. He's like, oh yeah? Well, let me flip you. He flipped me right over his head, flat on my butt. I'm on the ground, literally like sprawled, like, oh my god. Big happy face. Do it again. And he looked at me and his friend looked at me and they were like, dude, this guy's bonkers. No way. So once class let out, he showed everybody. He flipped me over himself and the entire hallway erupted with like, whoo! It was so funny. So that was basically where I started learning my pain tolerance could be an advantage. Where people couldn't pick on me so easily because I didn't hurt easily. They couldn't threaten me with beating me up because I'd be like, oh yeah, well let me help you. I'll punch myself. And I would slug myself in the face and they'd be like, this guy crazy, don't mess with him. And that carried on basically into 7th grade. So 7th grade, big year where I fought. Hold on. Yeah.
Do you have midnight with you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, I'm going to sleep.
Okay. So this was a year I fought back. Nobody could mess with me. So 7th grade, I don't know what happened, but I did not take crap from anybody. And when I say I fought back, it wasn't like I instigated everything. If somebody tried to challenge me, I would immediately say, do your worst. So somebody tried to take my lunch. Okay, it's burrito day. These things are basically like microwaved lava pockets. Somebody wanted my burrito. Okay, let me open it for you. And I'd smash that burrito and shoot the scalding hot burrito meat all over their shirt. I got flipped over a table, and then I got in school suspension. There was this one time I talked about taking this guy girl. I remember I would skip classes. I would basically be the school ghost. I would skip classes. The halls would be basically, there would be halls everywhere. And I would basically wander these halls like a spirit. Like, you could not find me no matter what you did to look for me. Like, it was eerie. Everybody called me the ghost because I would wander these halls like Kuchisake Onna in Japan, the slipmouth girl, and I would just basically be wandering these halls like a ghost, and nobody, adult or otherwise, could ever find me. And the bathrooms, let's say these are the bathrooms. The bathrooms, I would vandalize, and I would get, like, I would be so bad about it. Like, I would literally take the entire rolls of toilet papers from the stalls, soak them, break them into pieces, and throw them all over the bathroom walls, all over the ceiling, all over the bathroom mirrors, and I would do it so many times. I was such a rebellious bad kid in 7th grade. There was one time in computer class, somebody wanted her, there was a rumor. So rumors went around about me, like, that I was like just this little badass. So rumors spread. I had taken boxing lessons, I had taken jiu-jitsu. They all wanted a piece of that. This one kid confronted me in the middle of computer class and said, "Hey, I heard you've been taking boxing lessons. Fight me." And I'm just standing there like, I'm just like, so this kid is literally in the middle of class before the teacher comes in. He just walks in and he's like, "Hey, fight me." Okay, come on. And I'd just be like, I'd just stand there and I'd be like, and this guy was an offensive lineman. I'd just be like, scratching my head like, what? Forgive my horrible question mark, but I'd be so confused. This guy would just be like, "Fight me." And he did the most rookie thing he could do in boxing. He had put his hands parallel to his shoulders. He did not guard his face. So in that one instant, I said, so because he was like, "Fight me," I'm like, I'm just shrugging at this point. I'm like, okay, why not? So I put my dukes up. He puts his dukes up, right? So we both got our dukes up at this point. And what he does is he leaves his guard open. Bad. So his guard is like this. And all I have to do is, and I give him one straight jab to his lip. And they're just this big, like, you know, kapow. Kapow. And his head whipped straight back. I give him one quick lightning jab to his face, got him right in the bottom lip, and as soon as that happened, the entire class just... Oh! The entire class just erupted with, ooh! So I'm just like, uh-oh. I'm officially screwed. I thought I was in so much trouble. But he ended up going to the I remember it clear as yesterday. He still go to the teacher and he just nonchalantly go to the teacher who is, you know, big lady. Don't mess with big lady. And he just goes, I fell on my face on the chair. Can I go to the nurse's office? And I'm just thinking, what the hell just happened? I know I punched him in the face. I know I busted his lip. I should be in trouble right now. And it made no sense to me. I couldn't comprehend it. Why did I just break this guy's lip open and then all of a sudden he tells the teacher, oh, I fell on my face? I couldn't understand. I grew up so blissfully unaware. I was this stupid little kid who just smiled at everything with no idea as to why things were happening the way they did in my life. I could not understand it. I could not fathom it. Nothing made sense. So I get through 5th and 6th grade all the way to 7th grade. At the end of the year, there's this one kid who I used to think was one of my closest friends. And he actually ended up being an anti-Semite. And his mom... So, how do you draw an old-fashioned phone? I'm trying to draw like, you know, the old phone. So, his mom called my mom. And basically, in a nutshell, says... Just so you know, my kid's gonna beat up your kid at the end of the day with a bunch of his friends. And there was no motivation, no reason or rhyme to it. And the one time I had called this kid out in the middle of the lunch period because he would always talk about how he'd beat me up and how he would kick my ass, all this kind of stuff. And I would tell my dad, and my dad told me, just call him on it. Just say, okay, you want to fight? Oh my God. What?
I'm trying to sleep. You're being loud.
Sorry. I'm not being loud. Anyway, so my dad basically had told me to call him on his bluff and said, if you want to fight so bad, you, me, right now, let's fight. And he said, oh, I can't fight without my friends. So I think he took that extremely personally and made it a vendetta, basically. So a little before the end of the year, there was this one kid in my history class. He was a big boy. Like, when I say big, I mean big old potato of a boy. Like, this kid, he liked to eat. And he would always, you know, the desk, it would be the desk. You would have your chair, right? The little chair there. You'd have the basket underneath for all your little textbooks. And then this would attach like that. and then you'd have the front desk like that. So this kid loved to kick my book basket under my seat, and it drove me nuts. I was just sitting here, I was just sitting on my desk, like just bored, just waiting for the day to end, and he would not stop kicking that basket. And I finally turned around and I told him, "Quit it, bowling ball butt." And he did not like that. I called him bowling ball butt because this guy was the shape of a bowling ball. So he persisted. And I turned around to him and I said, "Keep doing it. I'll call you bowling ball butt for the rest of your life." He decided, "I'm going to take this pen that has a sharp point to it, and I'm going to stab you right in the back." And that's what he did. He took that pen and he stabbed me straight in my back. And we had the ability to press charges on him, and we did not. Why we didn't? Again, blissfully ignorant, unaware, and did not know or understand why. But we had the ability to, and I learned this later on in life. So now we're done with that. So we finish 7th grade. I take my finals in a private, secluded room, me alone, one desk, basically, with my little papers, and I had to basically take these exams in the middle of a room with the teacher at their big desk right here watching me the entire time. I passed all my finals. I was in this room, and I got out of school 4 days early because this kid had made a threat to me like that. So once I had graduated, we had started homeschooling. So at this point, I'm doing everything online. That's a bad, I know that's a backward, the S is wrong, but you know, you get what I'm trying to write. So I homeschooled throughout high school. And my dad still wanted me to have a social life. So what he did was he signed me up for AAU basketball. So, for those of you who don't know what AAU is, it's basically a select basketball league where you could draft a number of kids within an age group to participate in basketball tournaments, all that kind of stuff. We're a non-for-profit team, and my dad had sponsored everything, basically. So my dad, everything that this league, we got to participate in it, all the tournaments, the trips, everything came out of my dad's wallet. So my dad pretty much had sponsored this entire league throughout until I was 17, basically. And it was fantastic. When I say fantastic, I mean the experience. I got to go on these long trips. We got to go to different places. Like, a lot of them were throughout Texas. But then we went to San Antonio for a tournament. We got to play in the San Antonio Spurs. We did this one tournament where we got to play on the San Antonio Spurs basketball court. So basically, like the actual NBA basketball tournament, the actual NBA team Spurs basketball tournament. I think at the time it was the Time Warner Cable Stadium court. And they had changed it for the WNBA because it was the WNBA season. But it doesn't change the fact that this was the legitimate NBA basketball court that the San Antonio Spurs and then the women's NBA version of the Spurs at the time played on. And it was one heck of a game. this game was close throughout the entire time, and we had won on a buzzer beater by 2 points. And we got this nice, big trophy. You know, like the big 4 pillars leading to the second foundation, and then another 4, and then it led to a smaller amount of 4, and then there was that next one, and then it had the little guy or the little trophy cup where it was like this, and then we basically, like a goblet basically, if you will. It was a nice big trophy, and I still have this trophy on my table basically on my dresser, and this thing was memorable. But at the same time, that night, we had to drive all the way back from San Antonio to where I currently am to avoid, obviously, extra cost, but also because we had won the tournament. We had gone back like 6 in the morning, and it was just a phenomenal experience. I will say also, though, it was a very big double-edged sword. So this entire team I was part of, I was the only, and this is not racist in any way or any form, it's just factual. The entire team consists of black kids, and I was the only white guy. For 1 or 2 other tournaments, maybe for a handful of tournaments, because we played many over the 4 years we did the AAU. There were probably just a handful of tournaments where we actually had more than just me as the white kid on the team. And this is by no means discrimination. It was just the majority were African American black kids. So already in that aspect, I did not fit in. So there were all these guys, basically, right? Bunch of guys who understood each other, who knew what it meant to be in this league, to be part of a team, all this kind of stuff. And my dad had signed me up for this tournament basically to learn how to be part of that social circle. But I never did. I was always so focused at the time still on portable game systems. So at this time I had something called the PS Go, which is basically this foldable, well, it wasn't a foldable, it was a slidable PSP, and basically the top screen overlapped the controls. So you would have your controls here pretty much, and then the screen would be up here, and then it would slide, the screen would slide over the controls basically, and that would be the PS Go. And I cared more about being able to play my video games than anything else. I didn't take practice seriously. I didn't try to get to know the guys better. I was in my own little world doing my video games, being myself, enjoying that stuff, and not being part of the team. So it created a odd dynamic, if you will, where I wanted to fit in, but at the same time I didn't. Like, I was always questioning why these guys weren't involving me, but at the same time I didn't realize it was because I was so sucked into portable gaming and just gaming in general. I just really loved games at the time. Like during this period of AAU basketball, I would only focus on gaming. I would play Xbox when I was at home. I would play portable game systems when I was out of home. my life revolved around video games. Everything that was important to me involved video games. Yeah, there you go. So, again, this has to do with my blissful ignorance. So, I was in the world of video games, but at the same time, social life was right there, and I did nothing to pursue it, to understand it or engage with it. And I was frustrated. I didn't understand it. I didn't know why nobody wanted me to be part of this group. And it was all because I was blind to the fact that I had my attention elsewhere. So, once AAU basketball slowed down, basically, I started doing things to get my social life in my own way. So, trying to draw a laptop here. So, pretty much take a laptop, if you will. I draw this part at an angle, so this way you understand that it's, foldable laptops, all that kind of stuff. The keys, all that. Dink, 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 dink. Typical laptop, a lot of keys, screen, all that stuff. So, what I ended up doing was somebody who had no social life, no understanding, right? I had no idea how to be social. I didn't know how to talk to people. I didn't really know how to approach people. I didn't know anything. So, this is where anonymous group chat apps, anonymous video chat apps, and everything came into the picture. I had learned about Omegle. Now, everybody knows Omegle now is canceled and shut down because of the extremely dangerous situations it put participants into. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. If you're wondering what I'm meaning, look up why was Omegle shut down. But I had, when it was new and fresh, started using Omegle, learning how to interact with people that way. So, there were people I video chatted with and text with, all that kind of stuff. But then, as time went by, with the way phones had been advancing, I had started using something called anti-chat. Now, if you don't know what anti-chat is, again, it is a anonymous group chat app. Group chat, not just individual chat like Omegle, but this was group chat. So, what it allowed you to do was you would basically create a username and you would be able to participate in group chats of particular topics or general topics or anything, and get to socialize with other users who also had their own usernames. Because of Omegle and because of anti-chat, even though they were dangerous, like these apps and websites were dangerous, big time dangerous for anybody who used them, because they had predators on them. And I did not know this at the time. yeah, sure, I saw certain things on Omegle, but it was also when you went to the 18 plus category. So it was like, oh, it feels normal. But it was not normal. It was far from normal. You should not have been seeing those things, even on the 18 plus category. So I was using these sketchy, anonymous group chat apps to learn how to just socialize with people. Now, the nice thing about these two things was, even though they were so risky, so dangerous, and, very potentially harming for somebody who is learning how to socialize, I was smart enough and aware enough to understand who was fake and who wasn't. And because of that, I actually, when I found somebody real, I got to have extremely serious, meaningful, in-depth conversation with people. And I actually got to learn how to interact with people because of these dangerous sites and apps. Would I ever suggest this to anybody else? No. This was done only purely because I discovered this. It was my only way to feel less alone in the world, to feel more, part of something. Because growing up, because of all the online schooling, I felt isolated. Especially through the junior highs, because all these guys are getting girlfriends. I'm still alone. I'm still single. I've never done anything. And I'm just wondering, pretty much growing up throughout life, I've always asked myself, why? Why is it that these people are getting to have these kind of interactions, getting to have these people in their lives, and always just, it never made sense to me. I was like, I knew I was a good kid. I knew I was a good person. It was just like, but why isn't it not happening to me? It didn't make sense. And it was because the social aspect had been removed. So my ability to socialize had been purely digital, basically, all the way up until I started college. So finally, at the ripe old age of 17 years old, I finally start college. I am attending Lone Star Community College at the age of 17. For the first 3 semesters, oh God, forgive my atrocious sideways handwriting. But for the first 3 semesters, I actually went back to school. I went to school and I gave it my damnedest. First 3 semesters. So I gave it my best effort. I had learned about things like citations. I had learned about, I was basically relearning how to function in a school dynamic, and I didn't know how to socialize with people. When people talked to me and I got comfortable, it was easy. It was beyond easy. But that was also thanks to, like I said, Omegle and Anti-Chat. Without those 2 apps, I would not learn to talk to people. I would not have learned to interact with people. I would not have learned how to react and respond to certain things. And even though I only went for 3 semesters on campus, it had taught me a lot. It taught me to force myself into interacting with people even though I might be uncomfortable. Because even though that initial interaction is extremely uncomfortable, it had taught me also that it's necessary, because in that moment of discomfort, you actually learn to be comfortable. So that's where I actually developed I don't know if it's a legitimate saying, but it's my saying. And it's when I say legitimate, I don't know if somebody else already came up with it, but the saying goes, you cannot get comfortable without being uncomfortable. So in these 3 semesters, I learned to force myself to get involved with people and interact with people I would never find myself interacting with. And it was great, but there would also, like, I said some stupid stuff, and it got me not necessarily in trouble, but it made people hyper aware of me as an individual. And these were situations I didn't know how to deal with. And then it came time to after school. So going to the school, going to the campus and everything, doing the courses, no problem. At home, the homework, the way they expected you to, oh boy. I'm going to be laughing at the way I do this every time, but basically the homework, the way they expected you to finish it on time, the course load. I was doing, at the time, 4 courses. So I remember it would be two of them were on Monday and Wednesday, right? We'll give that. It's atrocious, I know. Wednesday, and then the other 2 was Thursday and Tuesday. So Tuesday and Thursday and Monday and Wednesday. Seemed very manageable, right? For me, it was like expecting somebody to solve a Rubik's Cube in half a second. And you would fail entirely if you did not do that. And because of this, I had the biggest anxiety attacks. I would melt down. I would be crying. I did not know how to deal with it. It was something so beyond the case of familiarity with me. And there was one point I forgot to mention in the high school aspect, the AAU. So during AAU, during high school, I actually was considered obese. So I had put on a lot of weight. I was an obese kid during an AAU. I was 185, nearly 190 pounds at 5'7", and I couldn't. I thought I was fine. I thought I was buff. I thought I was in great shape. But here's where things got bizarre. So, in that aspect where I was saying I couldn't understand why I wasn't fitting in and everything, and then I would play the video games. Playing the video games led me to play those video games while snacking. And while I snacked, it was a deadly cycle, basically. And when we would do basketball practice, I only cared about playing legitimate games. I didn't care about the drills or anything like that. When it was the end of practice and we actually got to play games, that was when I was the happiest, because I got to participate in the games. Midnight, you having nightmares? Sorry, I don't know if you heard my dog whimpering, but so yeah, it was a deadly cycle. And then throughout those years I was doing AAU, I was made fun of for my weight. People had called me udder nipples, like cow nipples, basically. I had a big stomach. I had, I basically had a breast. And I didn't see myself as fat. I would look in the mirror and I'm like, I'm not fat. I'm not. But then, finally, like I said, I started college. And all of a sudden, somehow, my reflection became clear. I was fat. So, I had finally saw my reflection at the age of 17. And I was like, oh my God, these guys are right. I'm fat. I have to put up a shut up. They made fun of me for this many years. Oh, I'm going to show them. And that's what I did. During my first semester, it was more all about adaptation. But once I understood kind of the process, the second semester, that's where I had my first major breakdown about the coursework. I think I started taking 5 courses at that time. And it was too much to handle. So I dropped one course. No, it was 4. It was still 4. So I dropped one course. And that one course I dropped gave me 3 hours. 3 glorious giant hours between my second to last and my last course. And you know what my last course was? Aerobics. Somehow, if I spell this right, Jesus Christ, aerobics, B-I-C-S. So, my last course was aerobics. I was the only guy. So, men, if you want to be looked at by the ladies, take aerobic class. You'll be the only guy there. Man, I had those ladies. I'm not saying like I was a dog. I wasn't saying like I was a player or anything, but I was the only guy in that class. And one time I had smoked brisket and I brought it to the whole class. And I had every girl literally eating out of the palm of my hand because the brisket was in a bag. And they were like, oh, it's so tender, it's so good. Oh my God, how do you learn how to cook like this? And I'm like, I just tried out our new smoker we got. So I thought everybody would like to try the meat. Whatever. Don't make it weird, you perverts. But yes. So, from that, on those days where I had aerobics in my last course, and then there was my one course I had 3 hours in between. I would participate in the racquetball class and do racquetball with them. I would play basketball, I would weightlift, and then for like 45 minutes before aerobic class, I would run on the indoor track. After 6 months, I had lost 35 pounds. I was a staggering 190 pounds at the time, right? And I went down by the end of the semester to 155. So, I was extremely proud of that. I went from 190 pounds to 155 and lost all that weight because for 4 hours basically, 2 times a week, I had been exercising rigorously. And this is where my fitness journey started, pretty much. I thought I knew things. I thought I was great because I would go to gyms, I would participate in classes, all that kind of stuff. And I thought I knew shit. But then I started getting certified. So, after the 3 semesters, college became purely online. So, it was all online after the first 3 semesters because I just couldn't manage handling the stress of professors wanting homework done at this time, submitted at this hour, etc., cited this specific way. I didn't understand any of it. So, for the next 8 years, I had done college online. And in those 8 years, what's going on? Oh God, my camera's about to die. Hold on 1 second, everybody. I gotta plug in my camera, otherwise it's about to die. 1 moment. Oh boy, I did not consider that. Don't you die on me, camera, I swear to God, I will be annoyed. There we go. Okay, I think I got it. Okay. Okay, there we go. So for the next 8 years, I did college online. And what this, so in all of the online schooling, so throughout the online schooling, hold on, how do I, so throughout online schooling, so for not 12 years, yeah, for 12 years. For 12 years I did online schooling. And in the online schooling, it provided me chances to socialize and everything. But that's not really where things mattered to me. In online schooling, I got to do a lot of business trips with my dad for his company. We went to Las Vegas to do giant business conferences. We went to different states to do shows for our business. All this stuff provided us a lot of opportunity to travel and do trips and everything, and got to experience the United States. I didn't really get to travel outside the United States except for one time when I was 19, and we went to Edmonton, Canada, and did the Fantasyland Hotel, which was phenomenal. I got kissed by a sea lion, I got to hold this massive snake, and I got to snowboard for the first time. Do forgive me, I'm going to go to the restroom really fast. Okay, so back to the online school subject. So basically throughout the entirety of online schooling, I had gotten to go on all these numerous trips. I got to have all these interesting experiences because of these trips and everything. And in the process of online schooling, especially during college, I had really developed a passion and love for fitness. Fitness had become my fire, right? So I had fallen in love with fitness during online schooling. There we go. Gee, that was horrible. Anyway, big heart for online fitness. Well, not online fitness, but fitness in general. I had fallen in love with fitness during online schooling. During schooling, I would, as soon as work became available, I would binge, I would hunker down, and I would stay up for 12 hours at a time and just knock out weeks of schoolwork ahead of time. So this way, all my free time could be dedicated to fitness. I was strictly a big-time weightlifter. So during the school years, that time would be completely removed from my equation. I would not be able to lift weights. I would not be able to exercise, all that kind of stuff. So what would happen during that? Well, it's pretty simple. When you can't exercise and you have a bad habit of playing video games and snacking, during the semester, what happens? Well, the equation is simple. Weight gain. So I had gained, during every semester of online schooling, I had gained the weight I would lose. And it was a roller coaster, literally. During the free times I had, I would lose all that weight. So I would easily put on 20 pounds during the semester because I would snack. Because after I did so much cramming, I would just want to unwind, I would want to relax, and I would play video games. I would sit on my Xbox for hours and hours and hours a day, just relaxing and doing nothing else. But in that equation, something changed. There was a reaction, a chemical reaction, if you will, and I started to lose interest in video games. Video games became unimportant to me. It didn't make sense. I lost interest. I stopped playing games less and I started weightlifting more. And I learned that I found more enjoyment in feeling sore and tired from weightlifting than sitting on my ass doing nothing playing video games. And that's where I would got it. It not only became about putting on muscle. I was 165 for the longest time, but I was a big 165. For my height, I'm 5'8". I looked massive. I could bench press easily 215 pounds. I could squat more than that, and I could deadlift up to 350 pounds. I was a proud weightlifter at the time. And this went on for 8 years. It would be, I would lose weight. So pretty much throughout the entirety of college, it would be a matter of semester starts, I would gain 20 pounds. I get ahead of all my courses, and then I would lose the 20 pounds. And then I would even put on a little bit of muscle weight at the semester finished, and I just had to focus on primary grades like major assignments or quizzes or exams. And this cycle repeated for 8 long years, where I would gain weight, lose weight, maintain weight, gain muscle. With all that being said, last but not least, don't forget to stay wired. See you in the next one, everybody.